RD here, back with the review of the JXD-512W, the Mini-ufo. Experience the fun of flying. The W stands for the Wi-Fi phone control, which is for the FPV. Let's take a look at the quad itself. It's got blue props in the front and black in the back. And of course blue and black also on the prop guards. It has a little Wi-Fi antenna that sticks out the back. That is for, of course, transmitting the Wi-Fi signal. So that helps with it a little bit. It's got nice range. That's one thing I really liked. I heard the thing did not have very good range, and you expect with the Wi-Fi that it's not going to have that great a range, but I had no trouble flying it out. I don't know the exact distance. I didn't measure it, but better than some of the other videos I saw, at least on the V version. This one, of course, records directly to the phone gallery, or to the app, and to the gallery. It does not record to an SD card, so it just records through the FPV feed. Now I think the first thing that comes to mind when somebody sees this is going to be Bebop. And yeah, it looks like a Bebop, and that's obviously what JXD was aiming for. Just in a low price little clone of it. But it is pretty neat. You know, the camera mounted in the front takes, decent video. I mean, it's not, it's a little wobbly, but it's not terrible. It's not a jello fest, as I like to call it, when they're really, really bad like that. On the back, you've got the on and off switch here, which you have to use your fingernail really to get it. It is kind of recessed in there, and below it is a charging port. That charging port is a little easy to get reversed upside down. It doesn't really tell you which way to put it in. You have to look at the pins. But once you get that down, it's not too difficult to figure it out. The charging time I got was 35 minutes. The instructions said 45, so that's a bonus. It's a little quicker. The charging cable itself here looks like this, and the light comes on red whenever you plug it in, and whenever it's finished charging, the red little light inside here goes out, and you know it's done. It comes with spare props also, 2 blue and 2 black for the front and the back. The instruction manual here, it's got an instruction manual that covers the basics of the quadcopter itself, and they're okay. They're about what you kind of expect for a Chinese to English translated manual. It's not very good, a lot of mistranslations, but you can figure it out. And there's some spare part listings and such. And then it also includes one that tells you about the app, which we'll get to in a minute, for the FPV flying. So it's nice that they did include both, so you know what app to get and such. Alright, let's see here. The LEDs on it doesn't have any LEDs on the arms, because there's not much arms to it, but that's kind of a bummer. You're usually used to seeing that on, especially for nighttime flying indoors. But it does have a blue LED inside of the body here that flashes, and you turn it on, and then there's red lights on each side of the on and off switch. And if I turn it on here and shelter it here, you might be able to make that out. The blue flashing light and the red flashing just simply saying we need to bind it to the transmitter, but those will go solid red when you're flying. But whenever the LVC comes on, those will begin to blink like they are now, telling you that you got a low battery and need to land. And there is that's not going to be very easy to see during the day. You can see it in the house, but outside where there's a lot of light, you can't see that. So you just need to use a timer to know. If you take video from the beginning, you can then use a timer on the video, on the app itself. The flight time I was getting is 4.5 minutes, and I flew it inside, flew it outside, and it was 4.5 minutes every time. I thought that when I flew it outside it was less because I was fighting a little bit of wind, and you'll see that in my flight video, but it was 4.5 minutes, so that's a good thing. It's consistent on the flight times. You get like I may have said a moment ago, you get a 20-second LVC warning on it, and then those red lights will flash. So about 4 minutes and 10 seconds without the LVC, and 20 seconds to land it. Let's look at the transmitter now. You've got the on and off button here. Beeps when it comes on. To turn it off, you have to hold the button for just a moment, and then it goes off. You got your headless mode on and off. I'm not a big fan of headless mode, but it's well labeled. There's a picture and video here, but this is not functional on this model. This is for the V version that records to the SD card. Your trim buttons here for your pitch and roll. Your upper left here is going to be for your rates. There's only 2 rates. You click it once and it beeps twice and it goes to expert. Click it again and that goes back to your beginner mode. Beginner mode is extremely slow, especially in the yaw, so I would not recommend that unless you're just starting out. Click it, get that up to the 2 beeps to expert, and the yaw is much better. It's much sportier, much more fun to fly. And your upper right is going to be your 3D flips. You press that in the direction you want to flip. I think that pretty much covers the transmitter. It's ergonomic and it's comfortable to hold in your hands. It's good for finger, thumb flyers or pinchers. Either way, it's for my buddy Flying Ryan RC. It likes to use. He's a pincher, so this one works well for that. The phone holder is really opens up a lot here. So let's see if I can get it up close. That can hold a large smartphone, but it does not. It will not hold like a tablet. So you got to, you can't use that, but you can definitely get a smartphone in there. And mine had a little trouble still with the case, probably because of the thickness, but without it, it fit just fine. But one thing I really liked was that this tilts. So you can get this at what angle you want, how you hold it in your hand, and that's just that's great. I mean, I just love that, especially for the, eliminating any glare, because you're going to get glare. That helps if you want to aim it down a little bit, and so you're not getting the sun right on it or something like that. So I think let's go ahead now and go over the app itself. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is turn it on. I turned it back off. And we got the blinking lights. I'm not going to bind the transmitter so we don't get an accident fly off there. And you're going to go into your smartphone. You're going to go to the Wi-Fi. And it should show up here in just a moment. And you're going to see Wi-Fi UFO. You're going to click on that, click connect. Sometimes it'll say it crashes, because the same developer made the CX10 Wi-Fi app and some other ones, and sometimes they will crash. But then you just want to go find the GX_UFO, and that's the app you want to get from the Play Store or the App Store for Apple. There's also one called GX-UFO, which is a little newer. It looks identical, but I got the one that the instruction manual recommended, and it works just fine. So when you click that, then of course it goes to your landscape preview there, and now we have the FPV feed there. So let's see it on the phone. Move it around. And it can be a little bit laggy. See, and there it goes. And that's just the Wi-Fi, that's just one of the things you're going to have to deal with. But it's usually pretty smooth, but there was quite a delay there for a moment where it did not want to go. But when I was flying it outside, I didn't see too many issues with that. It was not too bad. Alright. So on the menu at the top here, you've got it on and off. If you click the on, that goes to your app controls, which I do not recommend using. But if you want to look into that, you get automatic takeoff, which you have to use to take off. But I had a heck of a time. I couldn't fly with it because when you tried to land, it wouldn't. You hold the control stick down, and it didn't want to stay. It wants to bounce back and then take back off. And if you got a transmitter that comes with it, there's no reason to use this app to control that. So I turned that off, and by default it comes up with it off, which is what you want. But the two most important things just in the app itself, once you get it going, is your picture and your video. So hit that picture and you can hear the sound. It takes one, just like the CX10WD, because the same developer, same guy did both. And your video, you can press that and you may see the counter there, and then press it again to stop. And that pretty much just covers the app. This is if you want to use the built-in gyros on the phone to fly it, which people have more success lots of times doing that, and flipping your screen. It's some sort of a dual split on the app, a dual, I don't know, almost like a 3D. I don't know what that is. That was weird, and I accidentally turned that on. So, like I said, it records to your gallery. You'll have 2 folders created, a photo and a video, and that's where you can go to look at the content that you recorded to the phone while you're flying. And I think that pretty much covers everything that I can think of. I'm going to look over my notes here real quick just to make sure I didn't forget anything. I don't know if I covered the gyro calibration on the transmitter. That's always an important thing, especially if you crash or something. That's going to be down to the left. It will blink and I think the transmitter then beeps too, and that maybe just let you know you've held it long enough. So that will let you recalibrate the gyros on it. Yeah, I think that's that's pretty much it. It's a little noisy flyer, not a big deal to me, but some people might not like that. And it's a little bit underpowered. These motors, when you're flying along, it kind of wants to come down, and if you have the throttle where you had it, then it may want to kind of shoot up. But it's still not hard to fly. But if you're in a very confined area inside, you're doing 3D flips or something, that can be a bit of a problem. So, the motors are a little bit underpowered, but not that uncommon for ones like this, but not as bad as some of the other ones that I've flown. And it is, the flight time, 4.5 minutes, not terrible. Better than a CX-10WD that I recently flew, but could be a little better, especially given the size of those props. But since these prop guards are not removable, you can't reduce that weight, and you can't increase that flight time. So that's a kind of a bummer too. It'd be nice if you could take these off, especially if you're an experienced flyer and you don't need it. But I found that the prop guards work pretty well. So if you're flying inside, it's not the worst thing to have these, because you're going to damage a prop eventually, no matter how good of a flyer you are. So that pretty much, I think, covers it all. So let's go ahead, and we're going to take it for a little indoor flight and do some few 3D flips and see how it works within a confined area, and then we'll go on outside for a full flight review. So we'll see you back in just a moment. So before we take this outside for the full flight review, I wanted to do an indoor review, just a brief flight indoors to give you an idea how it flies inside in a kind of confined space, and give you an idea how the 3D flips, how well it does 3D flips. So let's go ahead and take it up. And I am now in expert mode, and that's what you want to be in when you're flying this thing. You can see one thing, it's a little noisy. Not exactly sure why, not a big deal. But when indoors, you notice it more. Let's go ahead and take it up now and do a flip. Give it some space here. And you can see it kind of wants to kind of bottom out, and you got to give it a little extra throttle. And then it's easy to kind of slam into the ceiling if you're in a low ceiling like I am right now. So the motors are a little bit underpowered. Not enough to make it a big deal. I wouldn't say it's not worth buying because of that, because it's not like some of the small Simas and those I've seen where they're so underpowered you can't even keep it in the air. This flies really quite well. Let's take it back up here one more time and do another flip. Let's do a flip to the left. And you see, it just kind of wants to come down. You can recover nicely. So no big issues. Every once in a while you touch the ground, but again, it's not a big deal. It's something I'm not too concerned about. If it does recover, it doesn't fail and flip and fall to the ground like the CX-10WD is prone to do on occasion. So let's do a flip back towards me. And you can see it touch the ground, but I was really low. Let's do a flip forward. Alright. So if you give yourself enough clearance and you're outside, it's not a really windy day, you should have no problems doing flips. If you're up, 8-10 feet is good. So let's go ahead and land it. Alright, and after this we'll go ahead and take it outside for the full flight review. Alright, let's do the flight test now for the JXD-512W. Let's quickly go over the transmitter here just in case you skipped ahead in the video and just want to see the flight footage. Headless mode on and off, which I usually don't mess with. I'm not a fan of headless mode. You get your trim buttons here. The photo and video buttons here are not functional on the 512W because it's all recorded to the app. So that's not functional unless you have the V version, which records to the micro SD card. Upper left hand here, this button is your rates, and there's just two rates, your beginner and then an expert, which I prefer the expert mode. The beginner is really slow. And the top right is your 3D flips. So let's go ahead and start the video here, and we'll take off. Let's press the video button on the screen, and we're recording. Let's go ahead and take off. And that is beginner mode. We'll do a test here. You can see that's the full yaw. And that is very, very slow. Bring it a little closer. There's a little bit of a breeze now, so it's not fighting it very well. Let's go, now go up to expert, and there you can see the yaw is much, much better. Bring it closer. Feeling a little funnel action. Let's bring it back. It is not easy to see these little micro, ultra micro, the nanos when you're outside. And this has a blue LED in the back, and it has two little red lights. And those two little red lights, I don't know if we can see them here or not. I'm trying to get it up next to my face. And those will start to blink when the LVC is reached. Looking at about 4.5 minutes flight indoors. Fighting the wind, I think we're going to go a little bit less. And with about a 20-second LVC, which is going to be hard to see those little red lights outdoors. Now earlier when I flew this, the range was actually pretty good. I had heard the range on at least the V version was not very good. I expected that the Wi-Fi version would be worse with the interference from the Wi-Fi and the controller, but I was able to fly it all the way over there to the neighbor's fence and back, and I thought I was going to lose it, but I didn't. So the range is actually pretty good. I was impressed by the range. So we can see here a little bit on the screen, you know, Wi-Fi flying on these little bitty quads is not particularly easy to do. It is more of a fun factor. Let's go ahead and land it there for a second. Had a little bit of a breeze taking it. Let's go ahead and take it back up now. So you can record, like I said, since we're recording to the phone, you're not going to have to worry about that affecting the battery life compared to like the V version, which you do not have the FPV view, but when you're recording, that's going to, you know, cut into your battery life a little bit. Whereas this is always broadcasting, so you're going to expect pretty much the same battery life. I do like these prop guards, that they do protect the props really well, but they are not removable, so you're not going to be able to take those off and then be able to you know, lengthen your flight times. From what I've seen so far, the video footage on this is not too bad. There's a little jello, it's not terrible, but for, you know, something this price and this size, you wouldn't expect it to be great. You know, comparable to other ones like the CX-10WD. You know, this is something you could fly up and expect your roof or something, as long as you're careful. This one tends to seem to have a little better range from what I've seen so far compared to like the CX-10W or WD-TX that has a transmitter. You know, I don't like flying with the app. I've tried it with this and it is not easy to do, and it just doesn't seem to work well at all. You can take off with it, but then auto land, because you have to use the auto takeoff and land with the app, and I could not get the land to work. And then when you land with the throttle stick on your screen, it'll land, but when you let up, then the props start back up, and it's just a mess. So I would highly recommend not using the app for this particular quad, and there's really no reason to when you've got the transmitter. It's just worlds different. So got a little breeze again pushing it, but in expert mode it can handle the breeze, you know, a little bit better. So let's go ahead and turn off the video, and I think we're probably just about running out of battery there because we're fighting the wind, and we are. So that wasn't a particularly long flight, but we were fighting a lot of wind, and that's going to do it. Inside, again, like I said, you're going to expect about, you know, 4.5 minutes flight with a 20-second LVC, which you'll see those red lights in the back flash. But outside, if you're fighting any kind of wind for something this small, you're not going to get that much flight time. Probably something closer to the 3-minute range, depending on how much wind. So that'll wrap it up for the JXD-512W. And be sure to subscribe for more videos, and we'll be having some more stuff. I got some other things coming, so look forward to more and more viewers and more subscribers. Have a good day.